The U.S. Supreme Court recently issued a unanimous ruling that significantly impacts how federal agencies, including the Social Security Administration, interpret laws governing retirement benefits. In a rare 9-0 decision, the justices addressed a long-standing legal framework, shifting the balance of power between government bureaucracies and individual citizens. This change is particularly relevant for the millions of Americans who rely on Social Security for their monthly expenses, such as housing, groceries, and health care. For several decades, a legal principle known as the Chevron Doctrine required courts to defer to a federal agency's interpretation of a law if that law was considered ambiguous. In practice, this often meant that if a retiree challenged a decision regarding their benefits, the court would likely side with the agency's internal interpretation as long as it appeared reasonable. The Supreme Court's new ruling moves away from this standard, asserting that it is the responsibility of independent courts, rather than the agencies themselves, to determine the definitive meaning of federal statutes. This shift is especially meaningful for those involved in benefit disputes. Previously, navigating the appeals process could be a daunting task for seniors on fixed incomes, as the system often favored agency interpretations. Now, federal judges are required to conduct their own independent legal analysis when a retiree challenges a denial or reduction in benefits. This provides a more transparent and balanced path for individuals to ensure they receive the exact benefits they are legally entitled to based on the law as written. Golden Seniors Hub recognizes that the practical effects of this ruling may vary depending on local implementation and specific state-level backlogs in the appeals system. While the ruling applies federally, the volume of pending cases in states like Florida, Texas, and California means that many retirees in those areas may see a change in how their challenges are processed. To understand the full scope of this change, we must look at how the administrative state has functioned for the last 40 years. When Congress passes a law, they often leave certain details to be filled in by the agencies that manage the programs. In the case of Social Security, these details cover everything from how your work credits are calculated to how a disability is defined. Under the old system, if the law wasn't perfectly clear, the agency essentially got to write its own rules. If those rules were challenged in court, the judge was usually required to step back and let the agency's version stand. This created a situation where the agency was acting as both the rulemaker and the final authority on those rules. This landmark ruling by the 9 justices has effectively ended that era of automatic deference. Now, when a senior citizen feels that an agency has misinterpreted a statute to deny them their hard-earned benefits, they have the right to stand before a judge who will look at the law with fresh eyes. This is not just a technicality. It is a fundamental shift in how the rights of the individual are protected against the vast machinery of the government. This decision ensures that the people who spent their entire lives paying into the system have a fair shot at defending their claims. In many states across the country, retirees have found themselves trapped in what seemed like an endless loop of administrative denials. When you apply for benefits, you expect the process to be straightforward. However, the reality is often much more complex. For example, the Social Security Disability Insurance Program, or SSDI, has faced criticism for high denial rates and a backlog of cases that can take years to resolve. Many of these denials are based on how the agency interprets specific medical evidence or vocational requirements. Before this ruling, the agency's interpretation was the gold standard. A retiree who believed the agency was applying the law too strictly had very few options for recourse. By removing this automatic deference, the Supreme Court has opened the door for these interpretations to be scrutinized. This means that if the agency is using an overly narrow definition of a medical condition to deny a claim, a judge can now step in and determine if that definition actually aligns with what Congress intended when they wrote the law. This provides a new level of accountability that simply did not exist before. Furthermore, this ruling has significant implications for survivor benefits. When a person loses their spouse, the last thing they should have to worry about is a legal battle over the Social Security benefits they are owed. Yet many surviving spouses find themselves dealing with complex calculations and agency rules that can reduce their monthly payments. These rules often involve how different types of income or previous marriage durations are treated under the law. In the past, if a surviving spouse disagreed with the agency's calculation, they faced an uphill battle. The agency's internal logic was rarely overturned by the courts. With the new legal landscape established by the Golden Seniors Hub and this unanimous decision, the focus shifts back to the literal words of the law. Judges will no longer be forced to accept an agency's reasonable interpretation if a more accurate one exists. This gives surviving spouses a much more robust platform to ensure their financial stability during a difficult time. The geographic impact of this ruling cannot be overstated. While Social Security is a federal program, its administration touches every corner of the country differently. In states with large populations of seniors, such as Florida and Arizona, the number of people who could potentially benefit from this change is staggering. These states often have higher numbers of administrative law judges and localized offices that handle thousands of claims daily. Because the Supreme Court's decision is unanimous, it sends a clear signal to every one of these offices that the old ways of doing business are over. It is no longer enough for an agency to say, "This is how we have always done it." They must now be prepared to prove that their actions are strictly in line with the laws passed by the people's representatives in Congress. This adds a layer of protection for every senior, regardless of whether they are currently in a dispute or are just beginning to plan their retirement. Consider the impact on those who are still in the workforce but are nearing retirement age. For decades, workers have been told that their Social Security contributions are a promise. However, as the rules became more complex and the agency grew more powerful, many began to feel that the promise was becoming harder to rely on. This ruling restores a sense of balance to that promise. It ensures that the contract between the worker and the government is overseen by an independent judiciary. If the government tries to change the terms of that contract through administrative regulations, there is now a clear and accessible way to challenge those changes. This provides a much-needed sense of security for anyone who is counting on their Social Security checks to be a major part of their retirement income. It means that your benefits are not subject to the whims of changing agency directors or shifting political winds within the bureaucracy. We must also talk about the practicalities of how this will work in the real world. Many seniors may be wondering if they need to hire a lawyer or if their previous denials will be automatically reversed. It is important to be realistic. This ruling does not mean that every past decision is suddenly void. There are still statutes of limitations and procedural rules that must be followed. However, for those who currently have cases in the appeals process, the landscape has changed overnight. Their attorneys can now argue their cases with a much higher chance of success because the judge is no longer required to side with the government by default. For those who are facing new decisions or reductions in their benefits, the advice is clear. Do not take the agency's word as the final authority. If you believe a mistake has been made or that the law is being applied unfairly, you now have a more powerful legal argument than ever before. Golden Seniors Hub wants to emphasize that this change is about fairness and the rule of law. It is about ensuring that the people who built this country are treated with the respect and transparency they deserve. The administrative state was never meant to be a law unto itself. By returning the power of interpretation to the courts, the Supreme Court has reaffirmed the basic American principle that no one, not even a massive federal agency, is above the law. This is a victory for the individual over the bureaucracy. It is a victory for the senior who has worked 40 years and just wants what they were promised. And because it was a unanimous decision, it carries a weight that few other rulings do. It is a permanent shift in the legal foundation of our country, and its effects will be felt for generations to come. As we look toward the future, it is likely that we will see a wave of new litigation as various agency rules are tested under this new standard. This is a good thing for the clarity of the law. For too long, ambiguous rules have allowed for inconsistent application of benefits. Now, as these cases move through the courts, we will get clearer answers on what the law actually requires. This will lead to a more predictable and stable system for everyone. For the millions of Americans who are part of the Golden Seniors Hub community, this is a time to be vigilant and informed. Knowing your rights is the first step in protecting your future. Whether you are dealing with Medicare enrollment, Social Security eligibility, or any other federal program, remember that the agency's interpretation is not the final word. The courts are now there to ensure that the law is followed exactly as it was written. In conclusion, this historic ruling by the Supreme Court is a major milestone for retirement security in America. It dismantles a system that gave too much power to unelected officials and returns that power to the independent judiciary and ultimately to the people. It provides a clearer path for retirees to fight for the benefits they have earned and ensures that the Social Security Administration operates with greater accountability. While the legal process can be slow, the direction of travel is now much more favorable for the individual. Golden Seniors Hub will continue to monitor these developments and provide the community with the information they need to navigate their retirement years with confidence and security. This is a new chapter for Social Security, one where the law is the final authority and the rights of the senior are placed front and center. By staying informed and understanding these changes, you can better protect your financial future and ensure that the system works for you, just as it was intended to. The significance of the 9-0 vote cannot be overstated because it eliminates the idea that this is a political maneuver. When all 9 justices agree, it means the legal reasoning is sound and the constitutional necessity is clear. They recognize that the previous system was failing to protect the due process rights of citizens. For a senior living on a fixed income, a sudden reduction in benefits due to an agency's new interpretation can be devastating. It can mean the difference between keeping the lights on or going without. This ruling acknowledges that reality and provides a safeguard. It ensures that the government cannot simply change the rules in the middle of the game without being subject to a fair and independent review. This is the essence of what it means to live in a society governed by laws, and it is a major win for every retired person in every one of the 50 states. Moving forward, it is essential for retirees to keep detailed records of all their interactions with federal agencies. If you receive a notice that your benefits are being adjusted, read it carefully and do not hesitate to ask for the specific legal basis for that change. With the end of automatic deference, the burden is now on the agency to show that their actions are legally sound. This gives you more leverage in every conversation. You are no longer just a recipient of a government program. You are a citizen with enforceable legal rights. This is the message that Golden Seniors Hub wants to spread. Empowerment comes from knowledge, and the knowledge that the highest court in the land has your back is a powerful thing. As the dust settles on this ruling, we will see a more just and equitable system emerge, one that honors the contributions of our seniors and protects their dignity in their later years. This shift also encourages Congress to be more precise when drafting future legislation. Under the old system, lawmakers could be vague, knowing that the agencies would fill in the gaps. This often led to legislation by bureaucracy, where the actual impact of a law was determined by people who were never elected. Now, if Congress wants a specific outcome for Social Security or any other program, they must be clear and explicit. This brings the lawmaking process back into the light of public accountability. It forces a more rigorous debate and ensures that the final product reflects the will of the people. For seniors, this means that the rules governing their lives will be debated in the halls of Congress rather than decided in the back rooms of an agency building. This is a victory for democracy itself. Ultimately, the Golden Seniors Hub community should see this as a turning point. The legal architecture of the United States has been reinforced to better support the individual against overreach. While there is still work to be done to ensure the long-term solvency of Social Security, the legal protections surrounding your individual benefits have never been stronger. This ruling provides the tools needed to challenge unfairness and demand transparency. It is a landmark event that will define the relationship between the government and its retired citizens for decades. We encourage everyone to share this information with their friends, family, and neighbors. The more people understand their new rights, the more effective this ruling will be in practice. Together, we can ensure that the retirement security of every American is protected by the full force of the law. As we look at the specific states where this will matter most, we see a diverse range of issues. In some states, the challenges might be around how state-level agencies coordinate with the Federal Social Security Administration for supplemental income. In others, the focus might be on the medical criteria for disability in specific industries. No matter the specific issue, the overarching theme is the same. The agency is no longer the final judge. This means that localized injustices that were previously ignored by federal courts can now be addressed. It means that a senior in a small town has the same legal standing as a large organization when it comes to interpreting the law. This democratization of legal power is one of the most exciting aspects of the Supreme Court's decision. It levels the playing field in a way we haven't seen in our lifetimes. In terms of actual day-to-day life, this might result in more successful appeals and a more careful approach from agency workers. When an employee at a local Social Security office knows that their decision can be overturned by a judge who isn't required to agree with them, they are likely to be more diligent. They will be more careful to follow the law to the letter. This trickle-down effect of accountability is exactly what the justices intended. It creates a culture of accuracy rather than a culture of convenience. For you, this means fewer errors, more clear communication, and a system that finally puts the needs of the retiree first. It is a significant step toward a more user-friendly and respectful government experience. Finally, let us reflect on the message of unity this sends. In a time when the country feels divided on so many issues, the fact that the entire Supreme Court could agree on this principle is a testament to its fundamental importance. It reminds us that there are still core values that we all share, values like fairness, accountability, and the protection of those who have spent their lives contributing to our society. This ruling isn't about one side winning or losing. It's about the law itself winning. And when the law wins, every citizen wins. Golden Seniors Hub is proud to be a part of this journey, helping you understand and navigate these historic changes. We are entering a new era of retirement security, one where your benefits are guarded by the highest standards of justice. Stay informed, stay active, and know that your future is now standing on much firmer legal ground. This is the story of a unanimous court and a more secure future for all 50 states. By focusing on these developments, we can ensure that every senior in the Golden Seniors Hub community is prepared for the changes ahead and empowered to claim the benefits they have rightfully earned through a lifetime of hard work.